Call of Duty Modern Warfare somehow won the best online multiplayer game of E3 2019 in spite of exactly zero information and gameplay footage still to this day, which only proves that E3 is really just a gaming industry self-relating marketing tool in order to generate hype with fake demos and rampant false advertising in order to get people to throw down money via pre-orders for half-baked products that are overpromised and under-delivered, which are contributing to the death of gaming as we know it. However, there actually is some information about Call of Duty Modern Warfare's multiplayer in the form of leaks that I'll go over, and I'll give my opinion on some of it, but again, until we have something to go on like a beta, I mean demo to play, none of it really actually matters. As far as non-leaked information goes, we only have a few blog posts to go with, and most of it is just complete nonsense dealing with the supposed new engine that is most likely a rename of the modifications built upon the IW6 engine that has been iterated upon since Call of Duty 2, which took Quake 3's id engine and modified it for Call of Duty's purposes. But there are two tidbits in here that may or may not make it into the multiplayer when talking about weapons, namely that there is a new ability to reload while maintaining the aim down sight mechanic, which probably means some HUD indicator to let you know when the reload is finished, since the animation will actually be off screen, and bullets wheel tag players similar to how in CSGO you get slowed and or stopped when a bullet hits you, and that bullet caliber matters, although I could see this being more of a campaign thing versus a multiplayer thing where a sniper rifle shot will slow down your opponent's movement immediately after being hit, stopping people from a full sprint, versus a pistol that doesn't do the same. There have also been several leaks with multiplayer details, which some sound like absolute bullshit and others sound like wish list items or pipe dreams, but let's go over them here anyway. Apparently there are 15 different types of game modes that have been concepted, including a face-off 1v1 and 2v2 returning with a shipment remake again, war mode from World War II with larger maps where you can call them tanks, and more on that later, a cyber attack game mode which seems to be a combination of sabotage and search and destroy, where you fight over a neutral bomb but with a single life per round mode. I love both the war and sabotage game mode, and Face Off was always sweatier than Gandhi's flip-flop, so I probably won't be in that playlist. Having both big and small game modes will also require more time and resources being spent on making maps for those specific modes versus ones that are playable in many different ones, which was a big complaint of Call of Duty World War II's DLC, having only 3 core multiplayer maps with 1 new war experience with each DLC, as well as Modern Warfare 3's DLC packs had specific face-off only maps. Although we don't know how post-launch content will be handled with the season pass supposedly eliminated, but what other type of bullshittery will it be replaced with? Anyways, more on maps. Supposedly there are also 15 of these, the same as the current Call of Duty Black Ops 4 when you include the 5 maps ported over from past titles, so that only begs the question if a similar thing will happen with forcing old maps from old games and then throwing them into new games that play completely different, so therefore the maps don't seem like they fit. However, this doesn't include these new bigger maps for the war game mode. In addition, there are both daytime and nighttime variants of maps, which will make people that correctly loathe Hacienda Twilight a bit nervous. However, the leaks go even further, indicating that these night variations are intended to be coupled with the night vision goggles mechanic that allows you to see in the dark, with the downside of not being able to aim down sight. There are interactive areas of the map to turn on light sources, and considering that you could shoot out the lights in the campaign, this might also make its way over to the multiplayer as well, thus actually having the night vision goggles not be as useful as a condom with a hole in it, like in Call of Duty 4, only really being useful on wet work prior to being nated to shit. This hipfire only and night vision goggles will more affect console than PC with the inferior input device, but it certainly is something different and new to the core multiplayer for Call of Duty, even though it seems that we'll probably have to have completely separate classes for night maps versus day maps, since laser sights and hipfire helpers will be needed more with those, and scopes not necessary at all. So about those classes, the Pick 10 system, which offers the widest variety of customization, is gone for the more simpler variations, similar to the old Modern Warfare games where you must pick a primary and secondary, both with a gun perk, and more on those in a second, lethal and tactical grenade with 3 perks and a rechargeable skill with up to 5 attachments for that primary weapon in a pick 5 sort of mentality. Before I go into more detail about what fills these slots, this idea is fucking asinine. I don't run a secondary because I'll litterbug a backup weapon off of the first person I kill instead of just using some shitty pistol. I'd rather have more perks and or weapon attachments that impact every single gunfight engagement versus a one-time use in a life lethal or tactical piece of equipment. So by forcing players into a box by making them pick things that they won't use in favor of allowing allowing even more individualism is a step backwards, similar to the division system in Call of Duty World War II, where, if you remember, that game had much more nade spam since everybody is running at least 2 or at the most 4, thus it forced people to use Hunkered or even the Armored Division. It's bad for meta, and it's bad for allowing people to have freedom in the choices of whatever the fuck they want. In Black Ops 4, the rechargeable pieces of equipment are pretty much the bane of my existence, but in Modern Warfare, they are supposedly nowhere near as powerful, and they include a deployable shield similar to the Barricade but without the Guardian microwave effect, a supply box similar to the ammo crate in Ghost where it refills your weapon, but it also upgrades your ammo with the high caliber rounds weapon perk, which I'll talk more on later, trophy system, Deadly Silence, which apparently is a combo of Sitrep Pro from Modern Warfare 3 and Dead Silence with lightweight added on, an EMP plane that will allow you to have a drone throw down an EMP grenade, which we all know, things that take out streaks, kill the fun, and lastly, the tactical insertion, which will hopefully mean the return of some bubba boosting bitches. These don't seem as annoying as the Black Ops 4 ones, but there's a lot of defensive ones here that will make the gameplay more campy, which is never a good idea, but the pieces of equipment that you carry are all more offensive items like frags, semtex, C4 throwing knives, mollies and thermite, proximity mines and claymores, flashbangs, concussion smokes, heartbeat sensors, decoy grenades, gas grenades, snapshots which outline enemies within a certain radius, and stim shots similar to the infusion trait that makes your health regen faster, not like Black Ops 4's version because there is no manual health regen. I'll go over the weapon list, but it's really mostly just modern military ways to kill people. For SMGs, MP7, MP5, Bison, AK-74U, Mini Uzi, P90, and the AUG, which can be morphed into an AR with certain attachments. For assault rifles, there are the M4A1, Scar H, the 20-round version, which is disappointing, the AK-47, which can become an SMG, which I guess is the AK-74U, the HK-433, which is in Modern Warfare Remastered as a combo of the G36 and M416 that they named the Lynx, after naming the Lynx a sniper rifle in a previous Infinity Ward game, Ghosts, a 3-round burst FAMAS, a semi-auto FAL that can both be made fully auto, similar to the select fire attachment in Black Ops 2, and 2 new weapons for the franchise, the SIG MCX, which hopefully there isn't a gay nightclub map, otherwise this gun would definitely be a bad look, and the Ash 12 Russian bullpup rifle. 4 LMGs, MG5, MG34, L86 LSW, and PKM. 4 shotguns, the R870, Sega 12, KSG 12 slug shotgun, and CZ720, which is a lever action shotgun like the Argus. 3 confirmed sniper rifles, the Dragunov, AS50, and TAC-50, as well as 1 more unknown. 3 marksman rifles, which have no scopes, KAR-98, Winchester, and M14 EBR, which seems weird to have 2 anachronistic weapons in a modern military shooter. For rocket launchers, the Javelin, RPG, Gustav, no, not the awful map, the lock-on launcher, and Stinger. Pistols being the Desert Eagle, M1911, P320, 44 Magnum, and an X16, which I'm not quite sure what firearm that refers to, but you know how Activision rolls, gun naming rights and all that shit. Lastly is a riot shield with a flashlight attached, and no, it won't be like the shotgun operator mod in Black Ops 4, thank fuck, but it's for those aforementioned night versions of maps. There aren't too many new things in this list of weapons, which may or may not be disappointing, but honestly, most Call of Duty weapons are just reused animations and assets from other previous weapons combined. And of course, there are items that are planned as DLC, like the ACR, M16, M91 Sniper, and M13 Rocket Launcher, because monetization schemes directly affect the content that goes into the launch of the game. There's also the concept of gun perks, which seems strange as being separate from attachments, because some of these most likely won't transfer onto weapons that you pick up, like Marksman for snipers to have infinite hold breath, and bayonets, but others seem like perks that only affect how gun mechanics behave, like sleight of hand, faster reload, supersonic for suppression, like the operator mod on the Titan, Mo Money, which is increased XP for headshots, not more problems, biggie, Ricochet to have bullets bounce off of terrain, probably like the energy weapons in Infinite Warfare, that was a joy to get shot even further around corners, Glacial that slows enemies like the tagging that I mentioned earlier, FMJ for increased penetration, an unnamed one to cause enemy health regen to be delayed, Skulker increased crouch movement speed, which seems more like a regular perk, and Sensor, which allows enemy shots to appear on the minimap, which apparently works very different from past Call of Duty games, which I'll get into later, but this also seems like a regular perk versus gun perk. So let's run down the list of regular perks now. There's the normal ones that you find in most COD games, munitions, basically overkill, high alert like perception to color your HUD when targeted, tune up to carry an extra lethal, spot on like engineer, battle hardened like tactical mass, scavenger to pick up ammo from dead enemies, cold blooded to to be immune from UAV and AI-controlled score streaks, EOD like Flak Jacket, Hunter like Tracker, and some newer concepts like Restock, allowing your lethal and tactical equipment to recharge over time, Shrapnel, where lethal damage increases the time it takes for enemy health regen, again, no manual healing like in Black Ops 4, Warhead to increase rocket launcher reload speed, which seems more like a gun perk versus a character perk, Double Time, which increases the duration of the new super sprint mechanic, which apparently is similar to the bayonet charge, but ADS times are extremely slow when you break out a sprint, Heavy Metal, where the kill streaks count towards your streak meter, as by default they are weapon and equipment only counters, which is actually a great concept with the best of both worlds for counting up how kills count towards streaks, and Bounty Hunter, which grants you the same amount of streak points if you kill a player with a 3 or higher streak, which seems stupidly overpowered, considering that you could have one kill of a player equal a 15 streak for you if it's the correct player, even though there is something to be said about knocking down the camping little cum dumpster in the back of the map, just accumulating their streaks. Speaking of streaks, they are again going back to the kill streak model instead of score streaks, which is another downgrade, since any positive action that awards you points should count towards your meter versus only having kills, and who knows if this is akin to earlier Modern Warfare games where it's just kills and kills only, or if it's like Modern Warfare 3 and Ghosts with objective actions, destroying streaks, and picking up tags also counting towards your kill streaks, but either way, it's worse than score streaks, objectively. The kill streaks are as follows: a shielded turret, care package, an emergency airdrop, scrambler drone, which is kind of like a counter UAV, cluster strike, which is basically a 3-area attack, cruise missile like a predator missile, precision airstrike over one area, the Wilson remote-controlled tank, kind of like the assault drone from Modern Warfare 3, chopper gunner, support helicopter, VTOL like the Harrier jet, the AC-130, my favorite user-controlled streak, the Juggernaut suit at the high end, which is one of the only 2 screenshots we've actually seen for multiplayer, a Bradley tank, which is a 2-person user-controlled streak, only on those larger maps that I mentioned earlier, a new streak called the White Phosphorus, which is a chemical airdrop that might behave like an AIDS array of 9 bangs, and a game-ending 25 gun streak only nuke that will not be affected by the Heavy Metal perk, which I don't like the sound of someone playing only for streaks if they can end the game on their own. However, I do empathize with people that have window lickers on their team, and the only possible way is to beast it up. Again, this was a problem that was already solved with Modern Warfare 3's Moab by having the enemy team being EMP'd and giving your team extra XP and faster objective capture time for the duration of the match instead of just ending the game right then and there. So that this way your team can catch up if you're on the losing side. Oh, and there are also the UAVs, standard, advanced like a VSAT, and personal, which the latter is only for the killstreak earner, not for the entire team, which leads me to the minimap changes, as apparently the minimap is absent aside from the sensor perk I mentioned earlier or one of those UAVs. This is a horrific idea for many reasons, including sensor will then be a must-have perk, having silencers being less valuable because there is no minimap to appear on now, people will gravitate towards the personal UAV since it's a lesser kill streak, thus they won't run the team UAV, so the minimap will show up even less than before, and this lack of direction for finding players in the game will mean that camping will increase dramatically. Ghosts already tried this, with the SATCOM being line of sight for only 1 per team, then the actual sweep with 2, and we all know how slowly that game fucking played, and it will be even worse with no minimap at all most of the time, and the introduction of a personal UAV taking up a slot that would normally be reserved for a team UAV, and the lack of spotting feature that a game like Battlefield 5 has, where people don't show up on the minimap, but there is suppression or being tagged by certain bullets having players that do show on the minimap, or a gadget to spot players manually, or even spotting areas on the map for your teammates with a ping. This to me is the worst part of all of the leaks, because if it's true, this game will be supercalifragilisticexpial atrociously slow to play, considering that it's already being branded as a more tactical experience, which is just another synonym for campy. In their last game, Infinite Warfare, I combated the somewhat poor and convoluted map design, where there are so many flanks you'd think you were in a steakhouse, by using a silencer so that enemies didn't know where I was on the minimap, and I could use said flanks to my advantage when the bad guys fired their weapons and they showed up on the minimap. It made my experience so much more enjoyable, but without this feature, you'll grind the game to a halt, with nobody being able to find anybody and getting shot in the back will be the norm. Even though there has been a no comment on a Battle Royale mode, which has been the saving grace of Black Ops 4 according to most, that can't see through its PUBG and a COD skin facade, there have been leaks about a Battle Royale mode existing, but it being shoehorned into the game, similar to Blackout and Black Ops 4 at the 11th hour. As to not take resources away from the already promised campaign, multiplayer, and co-op modes, Raven Software, who was recently demoted from lead developer of Call of Duty 2020 to side piece, is tasked with working on this mode, so guess what that means for the annual diary of Call of Duty in 2020. According to leaks, the mode can currently fit 150 players because the new engine allows for it, with a goal of 200 and a map that's 3 times the size of Blackout, which is already bloated for 100 people, so this will be even more of a snooze fest. Bigger isn't necessarily better, and you don't need to hit a magic 3-digit number for a Battle Royale experience if you design the game correctly. Apex Legends does just fine with 60, and Firestorm, although it's a little bit slower pace, it also is a pretty good arcade Battle Royale with 64. Speaking of Firestorm, this Battle Royale mode borrows the philosophy of different weapon loot tiers with preset attachments instead of like in Blackout, where you could customize each weapon and actually fills out the mid-game when looking around to upgrade weapons, so it's going to be even more of a slow burn. Here's where it gets a bit off the rails for me into the nonsensical mechanic area. There is a respawn system with a defibrillator gadget that you can find around the map, but if you don't have it, there are ambulances scattered around the map, similar to the Fortnite reboot vans. However, instead of being magically brought back, you're then transported to a hospital area where you could grab a defibrillator to manually revive your dead fucking teammate somehow. I don't know, that makes no fucking sense to me. Additionally, there is a system similar to Radical Heights' monetary currency, where you get something called plunder from killing enemies and by looting, which you then can deposit into ATMs throughout the map, which are tied to your account even if you lose a match, which then means you lose all your money, but by winning you keep your plunder. And unlike Radical Heights, you can't actually purchase weapons during the Battle Royale match. This currency will be used outside of the Battle Royale match itself in order to purchase RNG boxes, and since there already are COD points as a reward for a pre-order, for which we know next to nothing about the game, you know that supply drops are coming back, but it just depends on how Infinity Ward and Activision, spelled with a $sign, wants to implement them. If it's like Black Ops 4, then players will leave the fucking game in droves, but if it's more akin to the previous title, Infinite Warfare, where new weapons can be unlocked via challenges instead of behind pay or grind walls, then it'll be more well received. Realistically, that alone is what might make or break the game, and as you all know, publishers aren't going to detail their microtransaction models before game reviews can shit all over it and revenue comes pouring in, because it will definitely negatively impact their bottom line. Right now, all of this might be bullshit or stale information from sources, but according to the leaks, we'll find out soon enough as YouTubers and other influencers are being invited to play the game this upcoming weekend, and we'll get a reveal at some point after tomorrow's Black Ops 4 new operation starting, because even though it won E3's best multiplayer game, it's only been played by athletes like football and basketball players, not even e-athletes that actually play the fucking game for a living, and other judges behind closed doors. If Infinity Ward wasn't proud of their product, which they keep claiming they are, then why are they shutting other people off from actually seeing footage of the multiplayer? If the leaks are all true, I do like some of the concepts in the game, like the night-only maps or forcing players to use night vision and pitch black to change up how the game is played. However, there are a lot of steps backwards here, including the created class system, kill streaks instead of score streaks, and some downright awful sounding ideas like not having a mini-map at all, and even a more vast Battle Royale mode to get lost in. What do we think of these leaks? If I wasn't a cynical bastard that derided everything as hype alone, and I don't get hyped up about anything because I'm constantly being fucking let down, I'd be pumping the brakes on the hype train, and I sure as shit don't even want to play the game based on this information alone, as there's way more bad than good. But again, it all comes down to implementation of things that we won't even know about until after launch, which is the sad state of gaming now. I've been The Schwantz27, done like the bottle cap challenge after Mariah Carey. Until next time.